This is TWiT.
Now, as always, we're going to go ahead and kick it off with a little bit of freaking science. Now, when I lived in Hawaii, it was always a part of the environment to have geckos. Now, geckos were good because if you had a gecko, it meant that it was eating the bugs. It was eating the pestilence. It was eating the insects that made my life miserable. Now, especially for a person like myself, who tends to be a magnet for all things that bite, geckos were more or less a godsend. They were something that allowed me to get through the night without being eaten alive. Now, in fact, for a man who is like me, being bitten by everything, these little creatures weren't just a way to keep down the pest control, but they were kind of a fascination of science. Now, if you've seen a gecko, you know that it can pretty much stick to anything. It'll stick to walls. It'll stick to windows. It will stick to screens. And it does it because of some unique pieces of its anatomy. Now, I'm not the only geek who saw geckos and thought that this should be explored. There were some scientists over at Stanford who took a close look at gecko toes to figure out why it was that they could stick to pretty much any surface. What they found was that the gecko's anatomy is unique and that the toes are filled with microscopic little hairs. These hairs actually form a weak nuclear bond with the molecules in whatever surface that they're trying to stick to. That's right. It's not just a matter of sticking to something. They were actually taking advantage of something that was called the, and I'm going to mess this up. The researchers discovered that when geckos climb, the microscopic hairs that cover the pads of their toes take advantage of van der Waals forces to pull the molecules in the hairs to the molecules in the surface that the gecko is climbing. Of course, that is enough to geek out over. But what's really freaking engineering is the fact that the researchers have been able to duplicate this on a much larger scale. Those researchers over at Stanford have been looking at a way to let people cling to walls. Now, we've seen this in applications beyond just the movies, but most of the ways in which we can stick to surfaces deal with using some sort of suction, some sort of adhesive. It's definitely not the most elegant solution that you can find. But what Stanford has done is they've tried to imitate what the geckos can do with their little microscopic hairs, and they've come up with a new solution that uses an adhesive pad that they are calling a gecko toe. Now, the gecko toe is unique because what it does is it connects the hand cup to a foot support, and it uses the same van der Waals forces but scaled up so that it can hold a much larger cargo. The device that they've created can hold up to 154 pounds, and it allows a human to climb about 25 feet of sheer glass in 90 seconds. Now, there are limitations, of course, because it's not scaled up to the full size of a gecko toe. It's not really good at irregular surfaces, so you're not going to be climbing mountain walls or trees, and you are limited by the weight capacity of the surface that you're clinging to. So if you're holding onto a piece of glass, unless that piece of glass can actually support your weight, then the gecko toe is not going to be the thing that saves you. Still, maybe in the future, your options for getting up to the upper levels of a building won't be limited to just the stairs or the elevator.